Hello, everybody. It is time we are talking about overhead costs. Overhead costs, also called operating expenses, are all the ongoing business expenses required to run your business that are not directly involved with creating your product or service. This includes everything from office supplies to administration, but excludes the cost of goods sold. It is important to research and calculate overhead costs for budgeting and determine how much the business should charge for a service or product to make a profit. For example, if you have a service based business, then apart from the direct cost of providing the service, you will also incur overhead costs such as rent, utilities, shipping costs, and insurance. And then we move to the types of overhead. Overhead expenses can be fixed, meaning they are the sum amount every time, or variable, meaning they increase or decrease depending on the business activity level. Overhead expenses can also be semi-variable, meaning the company incurs some portion of the expense no matter what, and the other portion depends on the level of business activity. We start from the first, fixed overhead. Fixed overhead is overhead costs that remain steady for a long period and do not change as business activity. Fixed overhead remains the same even if the business isn't growing. Examples include rent, depreciation, insurance premium, office personnel salaries, and cost of licenses. Second, variable overhead. Variable overhead consists of the overhead costs that fluctuate with business activity. These are overhead costs that are not static. As business activity increases, so does variable overhead. As business activity slows, the variable overhead decreases. Examples include office equipment, shipping and mailing costs, marketing, legal expenses, and maintenance. And then the third, semi-variable overhead. Semi-variable overhead is a combination of fixed and variable overhead where some costs are incurred regardless of business activity but may also increase if business activity grows. Examples of semi-variable overhead include commissions and utility costs. For utilities, a base amount is charged and the remainder of the charges are based on usage. Fourth, other types of overhead. Other categories of overhead may be appropriate depending on the business. For example, overhead expenses may apply to a variety of operational categories. General and administrative overhead traditionally includes costs related to the general management and administration of a company, such as the need for accountants, human resources, and receptionists. And then how to reduce overhead costs. Some ways you can reduce your business administrative overhead include the first, evaluate your workspace and think about shifting to working remotely or moving into a shared office space to reduce rent costs if possible. And then the second, reduce your paper consumption using digital services to save on administrative expenses like emailing invoices and paying employees through direct deposit. The third, ensure your processes are as time effective as possible, automating for efficiency, eliminating excess employee hours, and supply use where feasible. Fourth, making sure your business software is working for you, as monthly subscription fees can add up quickly. And fifth, check out the competitors to your usual vendors and see if you can find a lower price for your materials, etc. Or work to consolidate vendor services if they overprice bricks. And then the importance of minimizing overheads. Minimizing overheads has long been a priority for companies in all business sectors. Modern companies are becoming increasingly creative in how they approach this. Even sectors with traditionally high overheads, such as manufacturing, are leveraging new strategies to help reduce them. Probably the most obvious example of this is the fact that many companies are giving up permanent offices in favor of remote working and temporary meeting spaces. Another example of modern businesses minimizing overhead is the way companies are increasingly leveraging technology to streamline administration. Automated invoicing or inventory management solutions can reduce resource requirements, technology, selling, general and administrative costs formed a significant percentage of overhead costs. To a certain extent, that is still the case today, but the level of administrative overhead is shrinking rapidly. And then how to calculate overhead costs. To calculate overhead expenses, there are 5 steps. The first step, list expenses. It is useful to start by making a comprehensive list of indirect business expenses, such as rent, taxes, office equipment, factory maintenance, and utilities. These expenses may have a minimal direct effect on the production process, but they add to a company's overall expenses. Creating a list can provide a clear and organized view of all the relevant items and helps ensure the company includes all its expenses. Second, determine the cost of each item. A company can learn the cost of utilities, such as water and electricity, from its leasing agent or directly from its suppliers. It can keep track of the costs of listed items by ensuring the responsible employees always know prices when purchasing items, such as toilet paper or soap for company bathrooms. It may also be useful to keep receipts that the company can refer to in the future. And then the third, subtract the production cost from the total cost. Once a company calculates the total value of all its expenses, it can subtract the production cost from this figure to determine the overhead costs. Since the expense list may be long, it is useful to use a spreadsheet to make calculations easier. After working out the overhead costs, the following additional calculations can provide a more detailed result. And then fourth, calculate the overhead rate. The overhead rate or the overhead percentage is the fraction of revenue that the organization uses to manufacture a product or provide a service. To calculate the overhead rate, divide the indirect cost by the direct cost and multiply by 100. If the overhead is more than 20, it can mean the business spends 20 of its revenue on producing a product or providing a service. I think it is enough for this session. Thanks for watching, and don't forget give this channel with your like, comment, subscribe, share. Thank you.